And welcome everyone to another Lunch and Learn session for a Digital Drive. Whether you're joining us live or on replay, we truly appreciate your support. This session was made possible by the hard work behind the scenes from the team at Digital Drive, Business Durham, and We Are Umi. Today, the subject is how to run a website successfully to get more results. And we'll be looking at 10 ways, 10 little tricks and tactics that can really make a big difference to your website visitors. My name is Pascal Fintoni, and I have the immense pleasure of leading on the skills development program, or the element of this program. Some of you will know that Digital Drive County Durham has other elements beyond the training side. We also offer one-to-one support via my colleagues Helen and Stephen. You also have access to funding, and some of you I know have already taken advantage of that. And we also offer a free online presence health check to give you some more guidance and advice on how to get better results from the internet. So once again, a warm welcome to you. The Lunch and Learn session started actually last year as an experiment, but your support and reaction has been so positive, we decided to carry on. And that therefore you'll see, particularly because of current circumstance, more sessions are coming your way. But I'm so pleased to be talking to you today about websites, because it is actually something and a subject that I think is important. It has occupied my career, as you will see, for quite some time. And whilst I do remain very passionate about the marketing of a business via the likes of social media, search engine optimization, email marketing, advertising, all those things, all that hard work is essentially designed to drive traffic to your website. But that website really needs to provide the right experience so that you get the just return on effort, which is an inquiry, a sale, a meeting, whatever is right for you. In terms of the intention for today is not to show you how to design a website. Well, I'm going to take the view that the website is already live or about to go live. My consideration today, my concern is around the running of the website. What has been fascinating for me over the last few decades is that there is a lot of advice out there about designing a website. Indeed, there are many books about it. If you did the test on Amazon and look for website management, which is essentially the subject of today, there are not that many books out there at all. Some of them are pretty old or really designed for public sector or large kind of corporates. If you look at website design, goodness, there are thousands of books out there. And it's kind of fascinating to observe, because to me, that's a real challenge. You know, what are the decisions you're going to take over the course of the next few years, while long as you're trading, to make sure that your visitors' experience is a positive one, in line with your values, your qualities as people, so that they take action. And we'll talk to each other about what those actions are. So part of what we have to do as website owner managers is to make decisions, but decisions that are informed by our understanding of who the visitors are. And that's the beginning, really. So I'm going to kind of begin this session by simply asking all of you, can you use the chat function I've just explained a moment ago? And can you quickly describe who your customers are, what you want to sell to them, and can you, if you have it already, put your website address, and that will help with the networking. So who are your customers, ideally? What are they going to buy from you? And can you also put in your website address? And that would be just very helpful to kind of get that in. So thank you, Rachel. So chosen all panelists and attendees. That's the function to kind of get through. And then, so we've got focus on undernutrition.co.uk. Yeah, if you could add some details, if you don't mind, Rachel, about your ideal customers and what they're going to buy from you, that'd be great. So let's just put the details in, because that'll help me a lot with regard to some of the suggestions I'm going to make for you. So whilst you're busy typing and putting the details, let me remind you that therefore, so we as all managers of websites have got a very important job. We make the decisions informed by our understanding of our customers, informed by trends, and informed by feedback from close friends and allies. We essentially have to decide what to do. Now, If currently you think that your website could perform better for you and support your business better, that is to say, to support your sales and marketing function, there are two elements really that you need to consider. Firstly, if you think that your website isn't performing as well as it could, it may be that there are obstacles in the way of your visitors' real enjoyment of your website. So if there are obstacles getting in the way of someone spending enough time on the website, quality time on the website, then the number one function of the website owner manager is to find ways to remove those obstacles. But what I will say is that's rarely the case. What I find more often than not is there are elements missing. It's not obstacles getting in the way, not as much as perhaps in the 90s, 2000, and 2010s, because we have learned and improved over time. What I think is really happening at the moment is that there are elements missing that will really encourage someone to trust you, to believe in you, and make that next step of making the inquiry or parting with their credit card details. So that's really quite important. So thanks everybody for sharing what you do. You've got Marie and Drew. Thank you very much. Yeah, excellent. That's very good. So I'm reading those I'm going through. Okay, so that's essentially what we have in mind. And I'm going to begin with, if you like, my number one conclusion after many, many years of either designing websites for my employers, then for my business, then now supporting people like you. I think the number one shortcoming of websites nowadays is that most websites are guilty of under-communicating. What I mean by that is that if I were to meet you in person, I'm sure we'll go back to that soon enough. If I was to actually read the information that you guys are leaving on the chat area, what I'm going to get is a sense of your passion, sense of how driven you are, and how actually excellent you are at customer care. So all sort of notions about who you are. And what is interesting for me is that, so face to face or kind of online, you're going to share information that's going to invite me to have an impression, an opinion about you and your business. And if I were then to click on the link you've shared with me and go on the website, it is possible for some of us that there's a disconnect between the passion that you shared face to face or virtually and how underwhelming the website is in general, because there's just a mismatch. And part of what we need to do therefore is, and it's not easy, I agree, is find a way to make sure that the website doesn't under communicate. The website needs to be as close as it can be to how thrilling, engaging a face-to-face or online conversation will be with you, because essentially you're just being yourself, so you're not holding back, you're not second guessing or over engineering information. The website is your virtual you. The website is your virtual representation. And that to me is my conclusion after many, many years of working with it, is that often the website under communicates and doesn't come across as well as you could face to face. So that's the position that I've taken for today, and as a result of which I've designed what I've done for you. So if we go through the slide very quickly, I want to make sure that they move through. The objective is to use this session to reflect on our current position. And for some of you, I'm delighted to see that it will help you reflect on your future website. So Marita, I think that's going to be exciting. And then we're going to plan those sensible, manageable adjustment to the website to either remove obstacles getting in the way of enjoyment, but I don't think there'll be that many, but more importantly, to add elements that will invite someone to trust you. And for me, if I was to kind of conclude this kind of preamble, the best compliment you could hope for from someone visiting a website, the best compliment you want a website visitor to tell you face to face, say, I went on your website and I was looking forward to meeting you. That's the compliment. You don't want to hear someone saying, I went on your website and the design was lovely, but then I did nothing about it. I went on your website and I didn't get it. What you want someone to say, I went on your website, I didn't have much time. I was, as often is the case, rushing through, but with what I could glean as information, I was looking forward to making contact with you. That's the aim. it's ambitious, I agree, but we've got to kind of elevate the ambition of the website since we are in 2020, and it is likely we're going to get more and more people active online as time progresses. So maybe I could ask for your reaction. Thanks for sharing the details of businesses and website. I'm reading them and multitasking. It is possible to a point. What do you think of this idea? A website can sometime under communicate. And what do you think about this idea of the best compliment that you should receive is someone saying, I went on a website and I was looking forward to making contact with you. I was looking forward to being looked after by you, being your customer. Give me a yes, give me a maybe, or give me a no. See how you feel about it. Thank you very much, Carol. Yes, Helen. I mean, that's, and there are ways in which you can do that, but it is very hard to do, Marita. I totally agree. And that's why I've been wrestling with it for, for many, many years, as you will see. Excellent. So I hope that as a preamble, you're kind of happy with that. So we're going to move through the introduction very, very quickly. I hope that's helpful. Then I've got a presentation for you, which are extract of training sessions, my own thoughts sometimes, or even one-to-one mentoring that I've done. And the presentation has three key elements. You know, some of you that are very fond of the structure of three. So I'm going to do a recap on the overall digital marketing strategy and where does the website fit in with the sales funnel, the customer journey, the kind of awareness, consideration, conversion, one of you mentioned. Then I want to talk to you about the new mindset that you should have, or mindsets, there's three you should have as the website owner manager. And then I want to talk to you about the 10 ways you could improve the website experience by taking you through a typical website health check as I would do them during my mentoring sessions. And then I will open up to the Q&A. Just before we start the Q&A, I will stop the recording because I think that's just the way it should be for the blog. For the Q&A, if you want, by all means, you can type your questions in the chat box, or if you feel like it, you can jump on the call and I can kind of activate your webcam and your mic, and then we can have a chat and keep it kind of lively. So Marita, we are recording the sessions. So you're not going to get the slides. We're going to get the video with the slides and the what do I call it, the running commentary, the presentation. Some of you will have received as well from my colleague Paul an attachment, the document, which I'll talk to you about at the end, but how to use it. If you've missed it, we'll make sure that you get another copy as well before the end of today. Okay, so I mentioned to you that I've been involved with website for quite some time now, and I still remain passionate. Somehow, I never tire of those projects because they are, every time they are unique. It's a unique business, it's a unique audience, a unique proposition, so on and so forth. And yes, whilst websites, functions and features have moved on with the time. Sometimes I think they're over-engineered, but we are where we are. I enjoy website as a project. It's that perfect combination of understanding people and behavior, particularly buying behavior, understanding communication, and understanding technology. And I was invited to work on my very first website in 1994, which means that it's been 26 years now that I've been involved in the world of digital. It started, as some of you saw in the earlier picture, in London. I was working for a tour operator, and I was invited into a meeting with the managing director. At first, I thought I was in trouble, and I was given the project of a website because essentially I was the youngest person in the office, and I knew how to use a computer. That was the extent of the interview, so to speak. And that first website project was actually very, very hard work. But then the second, the third, and so on and so forth. I mean, it really kind of changed my career, and I chose to specialize in digital ever since. We moved house recently, and I discovered this picture for you. So this is me in London when I got my first job, when I was given the role of the website design, if you will, how little we knew back then. So no criticism. This was my George Michael era. And what I should do really, I should go back to London in the same spot and take another picture just like this. However, as you can see, I'm holding a camera. Now, back then we were still using film, so I suppose the 2020 version, I'll be holding a mobile phone. But what was interesting about this project was the way in which we went about it was so wrong. But then again, you would expect that in 26 years ago. It wasn't wrong technically, it wasn't wrong in terms of what we did. What was completely wrong was that at the time, some of you remember, when you wanted to book a holiday, you had to get a brochure. You had to go to, back then, Lon Poly, Going Places, Hate Travel, and so on and so forth. And you got a brochure, you open the brochure, you choose a destination, a hotel, and the agent would do the booking for you. And what we did then was to say, well, quite simply, motivated by saving money on print cost, we said, well, here's the brochure. Can we get the same brochure online? And therefore, literally did copy and paste job. The brochure went online, and it kind of worked. What people could do back then was to go on the website the best they could. I wish I'd kept a copy, though. It'd be hysterical to watch it now. And they would print the page and then take the page to the agent and get a booking. So we've moved a long way. But of course, over time, it didn't work because a website is not a conversion of the print material into the online world. A website is so much more than that, and this is what we need to discuss. So be very careful not to fall for that kind of old trap of converting print into online. It's not this at all. But anyway, in the late 90s, I moved to the northeast of England. I'm now very, very happy in County Durham. Home is Walsingham for me, actually out of interest, because this is the Digital Drive County Durham. Can you put in the chat box where you are today? I suspect you're going to be at home, so perhaps not. You may be lucky, able to be out and about. But where are you based today? Just out of interest. Edmund Byers, wow, not far from me. CMO. Do you go out for walks, Carol? Durham City. So I'm going to say, is it pronounced Owen? Is it pronounced Unwick or Unnick? Near Chester Street for Sarah. Thank you very much, Owen. When I first moved to the Northeast, I used to say Bear Week all the time. People used to laugh. I didn't know why. In a field near Perthbridge from Rosie. See him. Okay. Belmont Business Park. Okay. Right. Excellent. Well, I know all those places are. Aren't we lucky to live where we live? So, part of yeah, exactly. So that's why you just let's do some networking. Now, what is interesting is I was saying to you a moment ago when we began that I feel like the spotlight has been on things, subject matters like social media, SEO, video, blogging, so on and so forth, and where the website has been left to one side. What I will say is whenever we do webinars and workshops on website, they are super well attended. So I think at the heart of it, we still want to get it right. But so today, I'm not going to talk to you about driving traffic to the website. Traffic is already there. I want to look at ways to make the visitors really appreciate the effort you've taken in looking after them virtually. And back to this compliment of, well, based on what I can see, read, and watch, I look forward to making contact with those individuals. So what we do with the program, as you well know, is we invite you to think differently about perhaps a subject matter that has been around for a while, and as a result to which you can take different actions. I chose this picture on purpose because to me, what is interesting about the world of digital websites, email marketing, SEO, social media, is we are all given the same tools, very much like this artist you can see here. But really, what this is about is self-expression. So your website should be as unique as you are as an individual, as your business is, and your offering, and so on and so forth. You're unique because of your career path. You're unique because of your experience and so on. So what has been interesting is that it's coming around now. Websites are becoming more and more unique in their design, more and more unique in their look and feel, and so on. But we still need to push it in terms of your decision, in terms of the written form, the photography, and now video. But ultimately, you are given the gift of the internet is not to try and emulate others because you're worried about getting it wrong. Therefore, you look at what they're up to, and then as a result of which you get it wrong. In fact, for some of you who have taken part in the program, in the sessions, or spoken to Helen and Stephen, you know that we say to you, well, whilst we are working together to help you take your online activities to the next level, we forbid you to look at the competition. And we usually get a bit of a laugh. They said, truthfully, looking at the competition for inspiration never works. Trust me. What you get usually is a sense of being inadequate, or a sense of frustration because you believe that they're doing it better, and that is not it at all. So for the purpose of today, if today is about almost like a starting point to making a big difference to your website, give yourself a break. Stop looking at the competition. I'll tell you where you can look. But for now, give yourself a break and reconnect with who you are, because the tools of the time, whether you're using templates given to you by the likes of WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, and many other good platforms, or whether it's designed by your own kind of developer, the gift of the internet is that of showcasing who you are uniquely. And nobody wants to buy for an organization which is the same as everybody else. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So part of it, therefore, is yes, the tools, the words, techniques are the same, but the results should be very, very different. The way to do that is to think differently and take very different actions. So what I've done for the purpose of today, then, I'm going to remind you of the three principles that are guiding the, what do you call it, the online marketing activities. We took a position as part of the program, which I want to share with you. Then I'm going to talk to you about the three newer mindset when you run a website. And then I'm going to talk to you about the three elements that can make a big difference to your website, which are essentially part of the 10 ways to improve your website experience and conversion. During this presentation, feel free to drop some questions as they come to mind. I read them during kind of the natural pause in the proceedings, as well as asking questions to the group about feedback and so on and so forth. So the three big principles, I suspect some of you will know them if you've taken part in previous webinars and sessions. Please bear with me whilst we share that with our friends who have not been on the sessions before. Also, there could be a very good reminder for you. So part of what I wanted to kind of explain is that the website is part of a bigger context, which I need to explain to you. So what we do here is remind ourselves that there is a newer definition to what we mean by digital marketing. This has been shared with you many times before, so I'm going to go straight into it. Our position as part of the program is that the purpose of digital or online marketing or e-marketing, whichever term you favor, is to I've lost my click. Here we go. Is to create the best possible online reputation. So that's the overarching goal. And within that, there are the facets of email marketing, SEO, social media, etc., etc. But the real aim is to create the best possible online reputation. That is to say, if somebody right now is praising you, if somebody's coming across you for the first time because you're a guest in a podcast, if somebody discovers you because you did an advert on social media, they're going to check you out, and they're going to glean information from different parts of the web and form an opinion. And that opinion will dictate whether or not they take further action, or they just ignore you and dismiss you. So this is what we do here, the best possible online reputation. We understand that we live in a time where people will be able to form an opinion, and an opinion that could stay with them for a while without even talking to us. So building trust and gaining trust before anyone gets in touch is kind of the new rules of sales and marketing in modern kind of society. It's very strange. I've certainly started a career where online wasn't that dominant, but we are where we are. And in that respect, let's work with the tools that we're given. So then that's principle number one. The first principle is we're here to build the best possible online reputation. We're here to gain trust. So number 2 and 3 in terms of principles is, what do we mean by online reputation, and how do we go about gaining trust? Your online reputation is really, to begin with that, my reaction to the information that I can access via the internet. That's essentially, in the context of digital, it. Whatever I can discover about you as simply as possible via the web will dictate what I think and believe about you. So since this is about the content that we've taken the trouble to produce and publish, we do have actually some element of control, and we can take the initiative. So I'm going to share with you again our position with regard to the program at Digital Drive County Durham, or what we mean by online reputation. So the first reaction that you want to aim for through the production and publication of content is that you are practiced. You have done this before, whatever you're selling or professing to kind of do for people. And, forgive me, I'm not going to be a guinea pig as your customer. She well practiced, and we're going to go back to that in a moment. The large majority of online reputation, and by extension websites, stop there. And I want to encourage you to kind of open up your reputation to two additional reactions. So the second reaction, in addition to well practiced, that you want from your online visitors and by extension future customers, that you're well researched. You're so passionate about your profession, and indeed maybe supplementary subject matters. You're so interested in what you do and the future of your customers that you can't help but keep yourself informed, and you take great pleasure in sharing your findings. That's an important element, and that can be obviously featured onto the website. So well practice is a given. Nobody was going to go online and say we're pretty average or we're not sure what we're doing. Where we start to create a better impression is when we share essentially the fact that we're so passionate that it isn't natural for us to keep ourselves informed, and we take pleasure in sharing those findings, whether it's an article, whether it's a video, whether it's a podcast, and so on and so forth. The third and final reaction that you want to build a reputation online is that you're well connected. Because you are an active participant in your industry, and because you are an active participant in the world of your customers, understandably, you have connections, you have contacts, and you take great pleasure in showcasing and sharing those connections with your community. So when we plan online marketing, when we plan by extension the website, which is an element of online marketing, you've got to always remember those three things. Am I showing ways that I'm well practiced, well researched, or well connected, or am I like everybody else and I'm just showing that I'm competent? That's fine. That's an important element. But if you want me to look forward to get in touch with you before, obviously, I get in touch with you, if I can have at least some elements where I can tell you're passionate and you enjoy sharing information, well researched, and I can tell that you are connected, and you enjoy showcasing your contacts and so on and so forth, then my opinion of you will be vastly, vastly superior to perhaps the competition, which is what this is all about. So before I move on to the third and final element of digital, what is your reaction to online reputation? My reactions to the content you choose to publish online, primarily on the website: well practiced, well researched, well connected. What do you think? Is that a yes? Is that a maybe? Or is that a no? Which is fine, by the way. That's really, we're here to have a discussion and a debate. But that's the position we've taken with the program. Sorry. So feel free to go into the chat and let me know about whether it's a yeah. Actually, I kind of see where you're getting on with that. Maybe you've already done that intuitively. Not sure. Let's continue with the presentation, or no, that's not going to work for me. So let me know about how you kind of do it. Thanks, Andrew, for the feedback. Yeah, this is not, forgive me, not just knowledge industry, not consultants. It's everything from B2C to B2B, everything that you do. And my argument to you is as follows. We began by me suggesting that sometimes our websites are guilty of under communicating. That is to say, if I met you face to face, you will go through all three without even thinking about it. You will tell me about what you've been up to recently. You will share some nice tips and advice that you came across, and you'll mention someone that could help me with something else. You would do it without thinking. That natural kind of social skills and communication skills, they have to be present online. And the hardest thing I think is that as soon as we approach the keyboard, as soon as we open the WordPress kind of CMS, it all goes. And I think that's a very important lesson, which is we are always better face to face than we are just on our own typing some clever sentences or coming up with something. So well practiced, well researched, well connected. Feel free to take a quick screenshot of this slide before we move on. But that's a position we've taken with the program, which explains why the workshops and more have been designed accordingly. Okay, third and final principle is, so we've got the fact that this is about building reputation. We have our own definition of what we mean by online reputation, trust. So trust is a fascinating subject, and I've spent many hours reading about it, webinars and so on, and I think we understand a bit more about it now. But ultimately, how do we go about making sure that somebody believes that our claims via the internet are indeed true? And we're not one of the few out there that are guilty of over-promising and under-delivering. So with regard to trust, I need to kind of go through, some of you will know this, a bit of a history lesson about what has happened to websites over time and how we've been using websites to establish trust. So if I look at what I call the 2005-2010 era or years, I call this the visibility years. So with respect to build trust and to be essentially believable or believed as a business, all you had to do was to have a pretty simple website and leave it there, leave it on the internet, maybe do a couple of promos, but there was no need to do much more with the website. Just make a statement about who you were, what you did, and how to get in touch. And that kind of worked for some time. But of course, eventually there was so many websites doing the same thing, and sadly so many websites that also kind of made those statements but were guilty of under delivery, that our customers were left not really believing what they just saw at face value. So we had to change, and our website then were adapted accordingly, and we moved on to what I call the credibility years. We began to, for example, put more effort into our news sections of the blog. We introduced Meet the Team, for example. We had more case studies. We had more kind of testimonials. We're trying to find a way to move away from just a statement of fact about this is who we are, what we do, and almost make sure that these statements were matched with some element of proofs and verification. So that was fine, and it worked well during that time. Some of you remember social media peaked as well. That was kind of interesting. Google did this thing as well to help us along, and so on and so forth. But as you can tell by the way in which I'm presenting this, we got to the point 2015, 16 maybe, where there wasn't enough anymore because everybody had a blog or two. Everybody had case studies, everybody had testimonials, everybody had Meet the Team. And again, some of the less ethical businesses out there copied that behavior, hoping to obviously get some customers they could disappoint. So then we had to elevate again the use of the website. And the use of the website then moved into what I call the interactivity years. 2015, 2020, I think it's going to be extended a bit more, is where we essentially came forward as individuals. And the expression that I'm going to leave you with is we wanted to be seen and heard being helpful to others, which is why you had a big increase on videos, which is why you have the return of a podcast a couple of years ago in the UK, which is why you had more and more people networking, speaking at events and so on and so forth, and essentially giving a flavor of their true self, virtually or physically, and making sure that they were being seen and heard, being helpful. And it's reached a conclusion to me that the way to use the internet and your website well is to build a reputation. But ultimately, the reason why I look forward to making contact with you, I look forward to being a customer, is that I've seen and heard you being helpful to others, and I like the way you do it, and I want a part of that. So if you want to write it down, if you want to kind of memorize it, to be seen and heard being helpful in today's economy is really the art and science of online marketing and reputation management, which is that we are putting ourselves further forward. And we hope, as honest, ethical businesses, that this is a last, if you like, shift of the goalpost so that we can really stand out from the crowd, from the white noise. And more importantly, we can really make sure that we are not guilty of under communicating. So these are three evolution. There is some thinking around what 2020, 2025 is going to look like, although current events may precipitate some of that, and we can have a discussion much later on. But for the purpose, again, of today, I'm using the three kind of stages of evolution to create a new sales funnel or customer journey, whichever term you favor. But ultimately, your online marketing plan, and by extension, where the website fits in, should have three key elements. You could sensibly put together an online marketing plan using three sides of A4. One page to describe what you're going to do about visibility, how you're going to be discovered for the first time. One page about credibility, how you're going to make people essentially consider whether or not you're worthy of their time and budget. And finally, for conversion, interactivity. What are you going to do to be seen and heard being helpful to others? These are three stages. This has been covered before in events and webinars, so I won't spend too long on it, but just for today, a big, quick, fast recap on things. So for visibility, these are the four options for you. Direct marketing, which can be printed and email. Guest marketing. Are you going to be a guest on a webinar, on a podcast, or reverse the practice? Are you going to have a guest? Either way, that's going to increase your visibility. Kind of social selling, that kind of networking and making soft approaches via social media, and of course PR and paid promotion, whether going to be on radio or buy space, on the website and so on and so forth. So these are the four key elements that are available to you. You don't have to use all four, but certainly I wanted to kind of be comprehensive, if you will, in my description today. That's visibility. Someone's going to discover you for the first time, in addition to word of mouth, everything else that you can think of. So next, it's credibility. And these are the four properties or the four platforms you should have to build that reputation, to show you're well practiced, well researched, and well connected. The website, which is the subject of today, your entry on Google Maps, accounts on social media, not too many, and a YouTube account. On YouTube, by the way, we did a session about a month ago, maybe a bit less, on how to run a YouTube channel. So go check out the website's news section. I think it's been now published. So website is part of your credibility efforts and activity. Just to close on your interactivity, you have a number of options. So email marketing, of course, is one of them. Organizing informal meetups, organizing more formal briefings. I'm sure we'll go back to this in in the future. And obviously now, at this moment in time, webinars and live videos are something that we should all consider, because that is what is made available to us. It's been around for a while, but I'm sure you'll agree. I don't think I've seen so many people spending so much time on video meetings and the likes for quite some time. So these are the five options available to you for interactivity. And ultimately, I wanted to kind of close on that with a final statement: to be seen and heard being helpful to somebody else. If I can witness that, then your trust score, if there was such a thing, is kind of where it needs to be. So this is what I wanted to do for you, recapping on the three key principles of reputation management, the what do we mean by reputation, the three key elements, and your sales funnel using the three phases of visibility, credibility, and interactivity. So before I move on to then the website only, do we have any questions at this stage about digital marketing, the planning, the reputation, so on and so forth? Just write them in the chat area for me. And if not, then we're going to move on to the website now. sending a message to make everything more visible for me. So let me just click on your names. So Danielle, if that's how you pronounce it, hopefully it is. In terms of advertising, would you say increasing and decreasing spend is best right now? It all depends where you want to advertise. I think right now, if we understand that what we're living through, I think you need to connect with your customers' mindset and mood. So, are they in crisis mode at this moment in time? That is to say, they are so preoccupied with trying to get things just working right that they are no mood or they don't have the capacity to process selling and buying information, that I might just hang fire. But what you could do is advertise your next webinar, your next live session. You can maybe advertise some presentation. You can maybe advertise some helpful information, ebooks that can help them actually move away from a crisis to more kind of status quo. I mean, if we believe that we're going to be on lockdown for much longer, people will start to like it's going to start to normalize and operate as best as they can remotely, and they may be more in a position to receive your information. So I would say this moment in time, ring a few of your customers. What is the mood? Are they in a position to buy because they've processed the change and they've done that, or are they more actually still in crisis management mode? And perhaps right now you need to advertise how you can help and help them navigate that as opposed to advertise to sell. It's just a position. Thanks very much, Marie. Okay. So yeah, I think Carol, it's going to be about your kind of connection with your marketplace and so on. um, yeah, I would say providing quality content in context, and be very careful. I've seen some really poor practice where people are scaremongering or the title a bit too kind of bombastic. I just say be yourselves and say, listen, two things, you either have found some information you want to share that is helpful, you have some connections that could be helpful because they tackle what is really pressing for your customers. So right now, many of my customers need to know more about HR and all the subject matters than they do about selling anything, advertising anything. Or my customers saying, well, actually, I'm going to use a downtime to think about my content. I'm going to move into that as opposed to doing something else. So it's about that connection with what is important with our customers. Okay, so let's move on then to websites. So I would need to invite you to think differently before we can take different actions. So what we're going to do here is look at the three new or newer mindset, and I would like to think that some of you intuitively are already doing that. But let's kind of agree as a collective, this is the way forward, so that when we see each other in future, when we support each other, that's the way we're going to do. So the first mindset is I want you to enjoy or go back to enjoying scrapbooking. What do we mean by that? So scrapbooking, some of you might do it, or better, it's about essentially keeping bits of paper, like I do myself. I still have my notepad and I keep bits of everything in there. So part of what you do as the role of the website owner manager is to make decisions on changes, small adjustments to the website. And it's a very difficult thing to do if really your full-time occupation is not web design, and indeed your full-time occupation is not running a website. So very often a website is kind of just adapted, and then we get on with work, and many weeks and many months can pass before we go back to it. And we might look at ways to change that. So what I recommend you do is that when you go online, no matter what it is, and you like the look of something, then save a copy. Whether you like the look of the team page, you like the look of the shopping basket, you like the look of the contact us page, you like the look of the blog, you like the look of the home page, you like the look of the navigation, the list can go on and on forever. If you like the look of something, then save it. Now, it's your decision. You can save in a Word document the hyperlink. You can do a screen grab, put it in PowerPoint. You can print the page. It's your decision, but you want to build a body of work, really a scrapbook, where when it's your time to think through how you might improve the homepage, how you might improve the contact us page, how you might actually rethink your blog, etc., you have sources of inspiration. And you look through and go, ah, yeah, the reason why is because I like the way this was lined up. I love the way the title was put together. I like the calligraphy. So you want to have the scrapbook as a source of inspiration. What you don't do is today decide that, I could do with a better contact us page. Let me have a look at the competition and see what they do. Are you going to be wasting a lot of time doing that and you're not going to be really satisfied? My recommendation is that the scrapbooking and the examples of should come from diverse industries and not yours. So if you work in IT, don't look at IT website. If you work in as a consultant, specializing maybe in team performance, if you work in whatever, don't go there. Look elsewhere. Look at some of the big brands. There's no harm in looking at what some of the airlines and big shopping centers, whatever they're up to. They spend thousands of pounds in consultancy, hopefully not wasting their time and money, and they got some good advice. But the scrapbooking is the number one mindset, and that should be done all the time. So there's many ways you can do that. Some of you, may use Evernote, I use Flipboard or whatever, and I've got essentially a folder called website examples. And I just save without really thinking, just liked it. And then when I talk to my designer about how we might change a part of the website for the better, we look at the scrapbooks and we discuss and react to it, and then we decide what my version is going to be. So, number one mindset, scrapbooking. What do you think? Is that a yes, a maybe, or a no? Over to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carol. Obviously, a keen scrapbooker. So, yeah, Marita, don't look at the competition. Don't get me wrong, it's fine. I don't mind when it's about product design or customer service side days, but when it's web design, I don't find it helps. You get you're looking for inspiration, find you get intimidation, so it just doesn't work for me. So, and don't think it through. If you like something, just save it. That's actually one of the anomaly of website management and design. We're going to spend hours and hours agonizing about something, and our visitor going to spend 1.7 seconds to think about it. It's incredible. So that's where we are. Okay, second mindset that I wanted to kind of talk to you about is change the purpose of the website. And this is a trick of the mind. This is not something that you need to do beyond the trying to get the website to work better for you. Now, the number one purpose of the website is to support your business, sales activities, marketing activities, and revenue. That will never change. But I need to kind of slightly adjust the thinking to make you more creative and innovative in your approach. And to change the purpose of the website, I want to propose a new definition of what we mean by having a website or the purpose of a website. And again, it's purely to help us think about things differently and to maybe actually elevate and get our website away from the white noise of what everybody else is doing, which is primarily copying each other. So I came up with this definition about a year ago now, when we did a website mastermind in Newton Aycliffe from memory. And I was saying, you need to get away from this idea of website being there to essentially, here's my sales materials plonk on the website, or I'm here to kind of showcase how amazing I am. Bear in mind what we said about well-researched, well-connected, as well as well-practiced. My suggestion to you is as follows, is that the purpose of your website is to record and share information. And that information is inspired by the many conversations you have every day, every week, every month with your prospects, with your customers, and with your connections. So the website is almost moving away from sales and marketing only to being something of more of customer service, even if you like pre-sales customer service as well as after sales customer service. So you as business owner managers, will have conversations daily, weekly, monthly. And some of those conversations, you should almost think, that was a good conversation. Do you get sometimes this idea of, wow, I was good today. My answers were really, really quite spot on. If only others had been present. Well, they can, in a funny kind of way, if you find a way to kind of transfer that recent conversation onto your website. So when somebody says to me, I'm always stuck about what to put on the website, I'm always stuck about how to present my product, I say, well, find a way to capture the recent conversation you've had, because that's essentially what ultimately is going to happen. I look forward to meeting you based on what I saw on the website. What I saw on the website was your kind of translation of a recent conversation. So the purpose is to be there as a service to others who could not be present when you had the mini conversation. Of course, that's part of maybe the sales meeting, whatever it might be. The other thing is to record and share your many considerations. So you are out there researching, you are reflecting on how to improve things, you're reflecting on how to manage, what's happening at the moment. You are looking at new solutions, you are intrigued by digital solutions, all those things. You're spending so much time in research and gather information mode. Share that, record it, and share it again. And then, as we mentioned, if you have connections that supplement what you do, that can add value to what you do, then you should find a way to record those connections and share them. So the purpose of the website, beyond the offer to the marketplace, what you can do, is to record and share your many conversations, your many considerations, your many connections, making a much richer and more rounded experience for the visitor. So that's a mindset which is there only to motivate you to think more creatively. It's not instead of the clear message about what you do and what you offer and how to make connections. But this is, I think, an important one. So recording and sharing what others have missed. That's way to summarize it. So again, what do you think? Is that a yes? Is that a maybe? Or is that a no? Thank you very much. Over to you. Let's take a quick sip again. Okay, so thank you, Mary. Moving on to the third and final shift in mindset, which builds onto the previous two. I'm going to suggest that you need to embrace your new role. Struggling to get my head around this one compared to others, Rachel. So that's part of the journey. Think of it is, if recently you had a conversation with a prospect, with the connections with a client, and you shared valuable information, it's a real shame that only that person heard you. And maybe what you could do is use that to be the inspiration of an article, of a video, of a Q&A. Perhaps in future, if some of you have regular chats with some of your kind of business networking clubs or whatever, grab your phone and press audio record. Then you can listen to it and type it, or maybe if the audio is good enough, that could become a podcast. So yes, Carol, so I've just read your message. That could be via the blog or the video. If you've been asked to present a product and it's gone well, the essence of that presentation has to be on the website. I suppose some convoluted and over-engineered phraseology, and because we all do it. I've been guilty at the beginning of my career. I wanted to, so anxious to get it right, I wrote in a way that wasn't me, usually because I copied others. So that's the idea behind it, Rachel. It is that use what you do every day to be the spark of what goes on the website. Okay, so embrace your role. So today, I want to give you a new job title. I don't know what job title you have for the business, but for the website, people talk about I'm the website owner, I'm the website manager. If you old like me, you may remember the title of webmaster, which is kind of interesting. The job title starting today, the 3rd of April, I have to think there, Friday the 3rd of April, is your job title is Website Experience Manager. grand title. And I invite you to, after we finish together, to go and speak to your family and colleagues and say, do you realize that I am the website experience manager? But that's essentially the job. That's a really important kind of detail. And as a result of being in charge of the website experience, you need to have a plan. And that plan is informed by a number of things. It will be informed by the health check that we're about to do in a moment, but it will be informed by how you've kind of switched your thinking to match the thinking of your visitors. So this is what we're going to be doing. So firstly, just get a reaction. Are you reasonably happy with the website experience manager as a job title? If you don't like it and you can think of a better one, put it in the chat area. But I just wanted to kind of open up possibilities. So Rachel, you seem to be happy, so thanks for that. But if you have a better one, by all means, look at it. What I like about the website experience manager is that it's about people and not about technology. I think that's been the error of the past, which I made for quite some time. For many, many years, from the late 90s all the way to the early 2010s, we saw websites as a technical project that required technical knowledge. A website is a customer service project. A website is a people project. And that's why essentially so many websites get it wrong, because when they get together as a project team, the people that are missing typically are those who are talking to customers every day, because it's deemed to be a technical project or a digital project. And I think if you take away today that, to my mind, it took me years to realize that, but we live and learn. To my mind, the website is a customer service project, and therefore the title website experience manager, or in future, and give it a couple of years, we could become the online customer service manager, and then you're in charge of the website. All right, so part of what you need to do then as the website experience manager is to kind of shift your thinking slightly to kind of align yourself to the way a visitor thinks. It's hard, but we can do that. And to begin with, a visitor will have two motivations. One is to essentially get to a position where you may be on the short list of potential suppliers that are going to buy from, or far too early, I just have a questions, or I'm stuck with something. I just need someone to be kind and helpful and generous. They're the two kind of mindsets depending on the starting point. The starting point could be, I'm at a networking event, I have a problem or a challenge or actually aspiration for the future. I want to grow my business. I need something that you can offer. And one of your contacts, one of your connections, because we're at the same networking event, says, Ashley, have you heard of Marita? No, I haven't. Well, here's her name, here's a business name, if you remember it, and I'm going to check you out. And therefore, I'm in kind of that buying mindset, and I'll be looking at what I'm going to call promotional content. Are you well practiced? Have you done this before? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, all right, then you're on the short list. I may contact 2 or 3 of you and then make a decision down the line. And usually there'll be the person that seems to be the most helpful before I buy anything. That's scenario number one, and it happens a lot. The other thing is, I'm stuck at home. I've got a question, and I've Googled it, and actually I'm completely overwhelmed. So ask somebody on LinkedIn, does anyone know someone that knows this? And then someone says, yeah, Marita can I help you with that. I think she has a blog. And then I'm going to check the article, the podcast, the video, whatever it might be, and say, oh, good. And it plants a seed thinking, Marita has been seen and heard being helpful. When I move from problem solving to buying, then obviously you'll be part of the shortlist. That's the aspiration. So that's fine, Marie, absolutely fine. You can watch the replay. It's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do is look at what the mindset is. So if I am in the business of shortlisting potential suppliers, I need promotional information. That's the term that I'm using internally. And therefore, there are 4 categories of promotional information. This is how you're going to start to structure your thinking. So as a website experience manager, you're in charge of showcasing products and services in a meaningful, engaging way. You're also in charge of making sure that this is plausible by aligning your claims about product and services with your track record. So you're in charge of case studies, testimonials, any sort of evidence, and that kind of things. You're also in charge of answering the question, which is, well, who is going to look after me? Who's behind the scenes here? I'm not going to buy from a logo and the business name. So we're going to be in charge of showcasing the team through biographies, stories, and that kind of things. And then the fourth element of promotional content, which some of you have asked a moment ago, are the infamous calls to action, if you don't mind the term. So, the contact us, the pay now, book now, register for these, sign up for the other, all those calls to action. We're in charge of making sure that they are as engaging and come across as potentially real as possible, as opposed to what is happening out there, which is primarily website very, very functional, but not particularly engaging and not really putting forward the values and the unique kind of characteristics of the business. That's for someone who's in a buying mode. For the others who perhaps just have a questions or they are kind of curious, we're going to be creating what I call on purpose social content. I use the term because usually you'll find that to be then shared quite extensively on social media, email marketing, and be listed by the search engines. And again, you're going to kind of align your thinking to what people are looking for. So they'll be looking for industry news. And let's be very clear, news about their industry, not yours. That's really quite important, or at least a combination of the both. So typically what I mean by that is, more often than not, people are not looking for news about what's happening in the world of social media, just like that. But social media and running a consultancy business, that could be maybe a far more interesting industry news. So this is where you look. So I would be flipping it, saying the impact of social media on the knowledge industry, or the impact of social media in online shopping. That would be the way I would look at it. So industry news, that's one category of information. Secondly, company updates. So what have you been up to for the last month or so? Show me that you're an active participant, that you're well connected, well researched, and well practiced. Back to what we spoke a moment ago. If you're having conversations with some of your connections out there, find a way to capture that. Or maybe if you have a conversation, I sometimes do, I have a conversation with a friend of mine who runs websites, design websites, sorry. I'm thinking, do you know what? People need to know this stuff you just said to me a moment ago. Shall we just jump on the Zoom call and record it, and it becomes content for the website? Expert Q&As. And then, of course, the free downloads. So we've got checklist, an ebook, a template, a matrix, something like this that you can kind of share out there. So these are the four things across social and promotional that a website experience manager would be looking to organize their thinking. As an extension, I borrowed a slide from our blogging webinar, which I think will make sense to you, which is as follows. So now that we understand how we break down the duties, if you will, of the website experience manager, then you can put a plan together. Okay, and we typically look at 3 months ahead, so April, May, June. And what you do there, give yourself some notes. So on the product and services, for example, which particular page on my website am I going to look into in April to find ways to improve? And the way I'm going to improve is because I'm going to look at my scrapbook for days, and then I might then come up with a adjustment. And really, that's where they are. Sometimes it takes minutes to improve a photography, or minutes to rephrase the sentence, or minutes to add a few bullet points. That's what we look at now. Since I'm thinking about, product B, for example, on my website for April, do I need to refresh the track records accordingly? Do I need to actually fine-tune the biography to make sure there's a match between what we're selling and the fact that our personnel or myself have experience in that? And then what can I do to maybe make that offer of a free meeting or free review or whatever, or a tour of the premises, to be even more attractive and engaging? And we just make some notes in plain English about what we're going to do that month, and we do that May, June, July. So if you do that, typically your website should be reviewed in its entirety twice a year, if you break it down, very nicely. And then the social content, again, mustn't steal the thunder of the blogging session that is planned for the future. But we're looking at, industry news, company updates, expert Q&A, who and what question am I going to ask, free downloads, what would it be? And we make a quick note on that. So this is a document that you can put on Word or Excel, depending on your preference. But that essentially is your third and final mindset. You are taking on the role of a website experience manager. Your website has if like a richer purpose of recording and sharing conversations, connections, and considerations. And scrapbooking is something that you do on a regular basis. How does that sound to you? Does that help kind of prepare ourselves for the health check that is coming next? Can I have a yes, maybe a no? And indeed, at this stage, if you have any questions about websites already or something that has been prompted by what I've just said, just make sure that you write them down. Thanks, Marita. Now, back to being manageable. It is my position and the position of the program that it's about doing very small things very often. Very small things very often. That's the art, really, of that reputation management, as opposed to something sometimes. You're going to really be quite surprised by doing very simple things very often. If you look back 3 months later, you've done a ton of stuff that is having a positive impact on your business. You're going to feel great. If you do something sometimes, there's not much to show for, and you're always going to feel a little frustrated about what you do. So thanks very much, Sarah. I really appreciate your feedback. Okay, so let's move on then to the health check. So the title today was, the 10 ways to improve your website experience and conversion. And I hope you don't mind that it's taken us that journey to get to that point. And what I'm going to show you now is how I go about essentially giving feedback on someone's website based on the experience that they are providing. And yes, on occasion we talk about technical issues, but they're becoming rarer as technology, design, practices, and so on move on with the times. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you almost like an example, an explanation of how to do the website health check. Then you can do it fully after this webinar, and then we can keep in touch, and you can send me some feedback about what you're going to do about it. So quick question. When you were invited to join the webinar, did you receive as well a document which had 2 tables? If you haven't received it, it's fine. We'll make sure that we'll send you a copy before the end of today. But just wanted to check that I'm not showing things that you can't see. Great. Well, how could I possibly doubt of Paul's efficiencies and so on and so forth? That's brilliant. So again, you have it with you. We're not going to complete it today because time is against it, but I want to show you how you go about using it to prompt you about making improvements on your website. So the 3 essential elements of the website health check are as follows. So there's a customer journey, and a customer will be pretty much will dictate or be dictated by their first impressions. So when I go on the website, and if first impressions are not favorable, I am motivated potentially to leave too soon, if not immediately. So the first challenge for a website, or the first element of a website, is to get first impressions to be as favorable and as much on your side as possible. And we'll discuss what those elements are, although you have hints on your table. Let's say first impressions are absolutely fine. You'll recall that when we began our journey together, we are here to remove obstacles getting in the way of someone's website visit and add element that will stimulate someone to believe in us and have that reaction of, I look forward to getting in touch with those people or making contact with those people. And we call those quite simply the trust elements. There are now some we understand that there are some elements that people will welcome and favor amongst anything else to find you a credible business, because not everybody essentially is out there necessarily behaving as honestly and ethically as you are. As a result of which, they are perhaps more willing to take action on your website. So bear in mind, some of you are planning a future website and some of you are looking to improve the website. But I thought it would be very interesting at this stage for me to ask you, when somebody goes on your website and the website visit comes to a natural conclusion, what do you want them to do? And there may be a number of things you want them to do. So for example, you want them to make contact to book a meeting. You want them to actually maybe purchase something. You want them to maybe download something. You want them to maybe join your mailing list. You want them to maybe join you on social media. So in the order of importance to you, using maybe numbers, can you write down in the chat area, what do you want people to do as a result of a successful visit, and visits coming to a natural conclusion, and you want them to do something. So I'm going to do the same for my business. If I just open the chat box, so number one, request meeting, it would be my preference. Number two would be ask for a quote. Number three, subscribe to e-newsletter. Number four, join me on LinkedIn, maybe. Number five, invite to podcast webinar. So I've got five, which is a lot maybe. So meeting, because I convert, ask for a quote, subscribe newsletter, and so on. So here we go. So Carol, you want them to make a booking. That's the number one. Make contact. Yeah, asking for the information and get asked for making a booking, complete contact form. Contact me to find out more. Request a meeting. Make inquiries, ask for a quote. Book another nice stay. Make an inquiry. Follow us on Facebook. Yep. So we'll have, and feel free for them to change over time. So you have them. Thanks, Marita. Contact for exploratory conversation. Follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Book me for work. Navid, get in touch. Request a code. Join mailing list and social media. Tell a friend about me. Follow me on Instagram for Rosie. Okay, so actually we have a high level of clarity of people doing that. And what is interesting is none of this will happen if first impressions are not favorable, if trust elements are missing, because ultimately I just don't believe in you sufficiently to act as per your list. So whilst we will talk about how to improve calls to action and make them obviously more inviting and engaging and simply just less risky. I mean, if you think about the reason why people don't get in touch with or don't do as you listed, is because of previously poor experience. I'm sure you can all think about when you join a mailing list or next time you fill a contact us form and never heard anything from anybody, or vice versa. So this is why we need to kind of take it step by step. When it comes to first impressions, there will be, just missed the, there will be three things we need to look at. Trust elements, 6, and calls to action, just a 1. And you'll see that if you look at your first table that was sent to you, you will have those 10 kind of elements on the left-hand side of your column, from easy to use on mobile phones all the way to appealing calls to action. Now, the way to use this table after the session, because time is against us, is to, having essentially been inspired by what we've done today and my explanation about what we mean by those 10 different statements, is to kind of simply go back to your website and walk in the shoes of your customers and ask yourself the questions: what is currently available? I'm in charge of website experience, so what is currently available, and what could I amend, add, adjust to improve that experience? And you just write them down or type them into your Word document. That would be step 1. And then step 2, which we'll come on to after my explanation of the 10 elements, would be how you kind of break it up and plan moving forward. Okay, so let's begin with first impressions and those three things. So I kind of invented this technique inspired by my work with customers, but actually many, many years ago, a company called Cisco, some of you may have heard of them, did have an attempt to come up with, for like, the rules or the understood tactics that will really help somebody enjoy a website visit. So Cisco was the beginning. Then I added things from a company called eConsultancy, their own experience, and of course, things that Google have said and so on. So it's been kind of tweaked over time. But I want you to imagine that somebody is going on a website and they're having a bit of a moan because something is not quite right. And it's not very positive way to look at it, but I thought it was a helpful kind of, again, tactic to do so. So first impression, there would be three moans that we have to essentially avoid as website experience manager and flip them completely. So the first one would be that, quite simply, the website is not easy to use on a mobile phone or a tablet. I can't easily access the information on this website on my phone and tablet. And it's a big difference, in my view, between a website being deemed to be mobile friendly and one which is easy to use on a mobile phone. That's really quite important. I'll come on to that in a second. And the best way to know whether or not it is easy to use on mobile phone and tablets is to ask somebody else to go on your website and give them something to do very precisely. So people can go on the website and visit it. That's kind of helpful. But actually tell them, can you go on my website and can you fill the inquiry form on the mobile phone? That's it. And then let them tell you what it was like to do it, how to find it, how to fill it in, and maybe what they got back when it was finished and so on. Ask them maybe to find a specific service or product on your website. And then having done so, ask them to get in touch to ask more questions and see what they give you as first-hand experience. Ask them to find an article and share it on social media. So kind of things that you would expect a visitor to do. Ask a close contact. Don't ask a friend or family. They won't put enough effort into it. Um, ask business contact, someone like from Digital Drive, whatever, to literally and give them a specific task. That's the way to challenge that. You can do it yourself, but that's usually you get better value from asking somebody else. The second of the three kind of moans and complaints is around design and format of text and photos. The statement that I've put in there, nobody seems to be looking after this website properly. They're absent. They just put the website up and that's it. My unfair conclusion is that maybe they don't look after their customers so well either. People make those links. We've done so. So be very, very careful about your design being current where possible. It is easy. Using good symmetry, good, looking a lot of white space and so on. With text, make sure that, bear in mind the earlier comment about people using mobile phones, make sure that you don't have big chunky paragraph, which maybe on the laptop, you look at a web page and maybe there's 3 lines of text, that will become between 12 and 15 lines of text on the mobile phones. So don't hesitate to use a lot of white space. And with photography, use the whole width of the screen where possible. Again, it's this idea of, is somebody's taking a bit of care here and trying, or are they just absent? This website was kind of published and they're not really, really present. So be careful about first impression. People can detect neglect. Oh, I just made this up. I may use it again. So third and final one is perhaps relating to the first two, is navigation and menu options. The complaint, and that's one that I hear often from first-time visitors when we do tests, is I can't understand the various options, what they mean. The language is kind of weird, or the structure or the sequence of options is kind of odd. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit jargony. I don't get it. And that's because suddenly you end up with a website where the information, the structure, the grouping of information is really done by somebody who has designed a website for themselves, not for the visitor. And this happens a lot when we are what I call the knowledge industry. That could be from manufacturing to professional services to whateve. I've had a situation where I went on a website and the option was all technical terms, a lot of technical terms, but options around different ways to process materials. And I asked the questions, can I ask very quickly, those options that I can see listed in the menu, they are words that I've never come across myself, but I'm not from your industry. Are those words known to your customers? And the action was, no, we don't think so. By the way in which we interact with them, after all, with the experts, they have to ask us about what they mean and say, well, I think it's a bit risky, therefore, to have those as part of the navigation. Maybe you should simplify it or group things very, very differently. So have a think about that. Navigation, design and layout. Is it elegant and fresh? And is it easy to use on mobile phones? That will take somebody seconds to make that judgment call. And if it were to be scored, if you have a 3 out of 3, great. If you have a 2 out of 3, be careful. If you have a 1 or 0 out of 3, that is risky because they may not then be willing to spend enough time on the website to go towards the call to action. On the subject of navigation, I think that we need to also marry the 3 statements together. I would highly recommend that if you don't have it already, consider navigation that is designed for the touch screen. So, we have our phones here, and it's a lot easier to tap on an image to be taken to a different section of the website. I need to tap on a word or a kind of a navigation where I've got to pinch and zoom and find my way through. So think about navigation as well beyond the, I don't understand how you've organized your content, because the way I think as a customer is very different to what you think. Think about also how can you make it super easy in the days of touch screens to go to the next section. Okay, so this is about first impressions. Before I move on to trust elements, do you have any questions or reactions when it comes to first impressions? Not easy to use on mobile phones. Design, layout, use of text and photos looks like this is not recent, and the navigation is odd, convoluted, or actually quite hard to use because of the touch screen. Would be my 3 recommendations for you to reflect on what you have currently. Before we move on to trust elements, the 6 other elements, any reactions or questions on first impressions? Yes, Helen, thank you very much. So it's one of those where they're going to say things to you, Helen, about I every day. I mean, I recently got somebody asked to host my website, and part of their customer service. Oh, we need a bit of a check on the website. I hope you don't mind. I know that. And they said things that I'd never seen. Like I would never see that. And it was invaluable. This is far too important to try and work it out on your own. We are in County Durham. We are all lovely people. We should all support each other. And if today you can make connection with some individuals, or outside on the Facebook group and so on, that do use that practice. Okay, so let's move on to trust elements, 6. And they're going to be so obvious to you now and so clear to you. Bear in mind the work we've done so far this morning on the principles, the mindsets, and so on. So with regard to first impressions, right, and I need to kind of close on that, you can do, of course, a quick and dirty check on whether or not your web page is mobile friendly, which is different to whether or not it's easy to use. And Google has this free service. It's called the mobile friendly test. If you Google that, you should find the page, and that kind of would give you a score, almost like traffic light. And very often they give you some good feedback, but it's still done by a machine. It's not people giving you feedback. So be careful about that. And in terms of navigation, I wanted to show you some example what I mean by that. So this is an example of a company that I helped some time ago, and they flipped completely and changed their navigation to, as you could see, not just what they did, because that was just massive, but actually who they choose to serve. And this is a lovely navigation that is easy to understand and allows you to feel actually well looked after. as a customer. So that's one example that I'd captured, even though I'd forgotten the purpose of this presentation. And then if you're in the travel and leisure industry, I can't help but look at it, then you are given some information unique to you. As you can see, the top navigation is still about what they do, but they choose to actually demote that to make the other one, who we serve, more important, to come across again as more helpful and caring. This is actually an organization that some of you will know, the Northeast Autism Society, based in Chesley Street. Yesterday, some of you know, was World Autism Awareness Day, which they chose to call World Autism Acceptance Day and Week. And then the navigation that we chose to go for was actually the one you see below now, which is more in line with the way in which parents, schools, local authorities think, which is about how we can support you, how you register your interest, and how we change lives. And this actually was inspired by the regular telephone conversations and meetings that the team at the Northeast Autism Society had. They had a previous navigation which was actually listing everything they could do for people, but actually that was just so vast and so rich in options that it was just too complicated, and people gave up and actually rang, which was fine. So we chose to go for more on this kind of the question people have, like, what can you do for me? How do I begin the journey to register interest? And can you show me examples of how you helped others? So that was the way in which they did and chose that navigation. And again, you can click on the image, or in the previous one, if I can go back one, you click on the icons and the buttons as well. Okay, so let's move on to the trust elements. And these, again, will be very, very clear to you, bear in mind the work we've done. So back to this idea of a visitor who is left wanting a bit more and they're not getting perhaps what they were hoping for. Now, the trust elements are there to be added or to be made present. Very, very important. If they are missing, you could end up in a situation where somebody is not willing to take it to the next level of the call to action. So, first little moan could be, I can't find testimonials or case studies from customers like me. That's really, really important. Now, you may have testimonials and case studies, but they're not from people like me, then that's a 0. You don't get the score for that. That's really quite important. I need to know that you are practiced, well connected, and well researched for people like me. More importantly, you may have case studies and testimonials from people like me, but I can't find them. They are maybe tucked away on a different part of the website called What People Say or What Our Clients Say. And ultimately, I'm currently looking at a product. I'm currently reading an article, and they're on that page. And what I don't want to do is leave that page to read some testimonials. And by the way, when you do have a page called What Our Clients Say, which is fair, then I've got to work hard to scroll through to find the 1 or 2 testimonials that are relevant to me. Ideally, since this is about website experience and this is about customer service, if I'm looking at a product, add some testimonials there on that page from people like me. If you are looking and writing an article that addresses needs people like me, then add some testimonials there. So whilst I'm not saying you should not have a page which is a collection of your great testimonials and case studies, make sure that they also are present and punctuate my website visit throughout. So that's tip number 1. Number 2, it's becoming rarer, but I still have it listed, which is I can't find real photos and videos. It all seems a bit fake and a bit impersonal, and that's actually understandable if this is a new website. If this is a new website, sometimes you just don't have the assets, as we call them. But if the website's been live now for 6, 12, 24, 36 months, visitors could be forgiven to be not very forgiving if you have using essentially stock photography or a video that is more of a montage of stock footage as well. So I'm here to find you credible. I'm here to look forward to be looked after you. It's much harder if I don't have genuine photography and video. And this is so much easier to do nowadays, from using your mobiles to finding a local photographer that can really capture all the right moments. Again, it's rarer, but it still happens. I don't mind if the visuals are part of the overall design, but when it comes to the body of the content, if I can tell, forgive me, that it's not you shaking hands with the customer. If I can tell that this desk is not yours and so on, because frankly, all of us are able to tell after spending so much time on the internet, then I might just create a disconnect. So just watch out for that. Okay, moving on to the next. And this is a very, very important, bear in mind what we just said. I'm on the website, I'm taking on the content, but frankly, this website, it's just about the well practiced. That's it. And they're not even that, they just talk about what they do and how well they do it, but I don't actually get a sense of who they help and how they help them. Again, over time, over the recent years, it's becoming less and less of a complaint, but just watch out, particularly if you are onto a refresh of the website on your website. It's only natural that when you do the first pass, as I call it, the way you're going to write is more about what you do and how you do da. But then give yourself a couple of weeks and then go back and start to ask yourself the questions. Am I really answering the question in the right order, which is, who do I help? Why do I help them? What is the challenge that they're facing? And how do I help them? And that's the order in which, ideally you want to be answering those questions. And this can be done very simply, very succinctly. So watch out for that. That doesn't become what we called a me website. Moving on to the next one. Actually, that's a fun one because this is where we start to elevate the website. The website is making claims about what they can achieve for their customers, making claims about how they do things for their customers, but there's no evidence that this is true. Think about that for a moment. Excuse me. If you make claims that you can change things for the better, how do I know it's true? So using the chat box, can you explain to me what you can achieve for your customers? What is it that, when you think about the work is finished, what have you done? What has been the experience? Can you write that in the chat box for me? Because I use that as examples to show what I mean by evidence. I must remember to always switch on the chat box so I can see what you're writing. So if I think, for example, for myself, and I'm claiming that I can increase traffic to your website, how can I evidence that? Using words, photography, video, and audio. So Helen, a great breakfast and a good night's sleep. So what would be the evidence that this breakfast is great? That's it. Between words, photography, video, and audio. And we're going to talk about that a bit more in a moment, because this is when we need to start to take our website away from 2010s to 2020 onwards. There are just too many websites out there making claims. We need to start to work a little harder on the evidence. So those evidence can be, I call them soft evidence, actually capturing the moments and sharing those moments, including social media. And they can be hard evidence, such as data. And that data can come from your own research. So for example, I will be pestering my customers to say, right, we've been working together, we've had some great sessions, give me a before and after, so that I can really use that as evidence. Yeah. So Andrew, back to this idea of giving peace of mind. So can we, can we get your customers to actually give you the before and after? So before I worked with Andrew, this was my state of mind, and also practically, how we left ourselves open to obviously troubles. And then after, can we evidence that? For some of us, it could be that a third party, maybe a kind of, how could I put it? Yeah, some industry, you can have a third party, official third party that can actually verify what you've done as evidence that this is working. So Marita, you're going to create the effective online resources, but the evidence that it's working is then the feedback from your customers. And again, what had they been able to achieve before? So this is where the website experience manager really earns their keep, because they have to think about that and get it done. So I remember I was helping it was actually a heating engineer, and making claims, of course, that his job was of good quality. But he got third-party verification. He got himself on a number of things. He actually also became the local representative for a campaign for British Gas and so on. So different ways of doing that. So this is now the new kind of cerebral exercise of, I make a claim, I back it up. I make a claim, I back it up. So I think it was, let me scroll back, probably Carol, I'm going to say, but others have said. The other version is to do claims and social proof. So again, the website is making claims about how good they are, but there are no reviews or feedback from social media, social networks. So if any of you have had praises and thank yous and all sort of kind of positive comments on social media, don't leave it there. Find a way to carry it over to the website. Remember, these are the trust elements. If they are missing, you are maybe losing out on calls to action. So um, give me a yes if you've had already some positive comments from customers on social media, or even some formal review platforms like Trustpilots or whichever. Now, brilliant on Carol and Andrew so far are saying yes. So can you find them again? And you've got two options. You can crudely, thanks Sarah also, you can crudely do a screen grab and find a way to position this on your website as best you can. Or sometimes you can also make a feed if you can copy and paste maybe the hyperlink and so on. But find a way, all of you, if I mean, when I, for example, I'm very flattered every time someone says thank you or well done on Twitter, in particular on LinkedIn. The problem is I sometimes reply and I've got to remember to do a screen grab, because what happens, weeks and months go by, and then I'm doing my bit for my website thinking, where is it again? And trying to scroll through all the tweets, and sometimes you can't find it because it's too long ago. Or, for instance, so Andrew, you've got the links from Facebook recommendations. It would be nice to know actually for others, if you're happy to share how it's done. Probably very, very simple. So we'll look at that. But I also use them when I do a quote. So if I do proposals for an extensive training program, and there's a part where I want to kind of provide evidence that my work is of value, then I will actually put the screen grabs from Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. And what is great about those is that they're very real, because there's a photo of an individual, there's their name, and because it's from social media, it was a public address. So of course you can use it for other purposes. So what is the best way to encourage customers to write a review? My tactic, Sarah, has been to write it for them and ask if they're happy with it. And I mean this because of time, of the essence. So that's tactic number one. And please let me know others if it's worked for you. And the others is to essentially ask and to make it very, very simple. So here's what I do. So I had a client who was doing kitchen fitting. They were based in Concert, actually, and we wanted to get their Google Maps entry really rocking. They didn't have a website yet, and we wanted to kind of still get it work. So what we did was to get people to go on Google Maps and write reviews. So we made it super simple. We simplified the hyperlink. We sent an email. We're giving examples where they could write, so they could even copy and paste. So really back to customer service, doing as much of the work as possible. If you are doing, well, it's going to be limited for now, but in future when we're doing work on site, literally have your tablet, have your phone, have your laptop ready, and ask them to write a few nice messages. For some of us, we have the luxury to be able to go back to speak to our customers about something we've done for them. So what I do sometimes, I go on a Zoom call, such as this one. The difference being that we're both online, we're both visible, and then we're side by side. Some of you have seen before, and just chat to them about. So it's been a few months since we've done our work together. What's been happening? And I use that as a review. So I hope that answers your question, Sarah. But for all the others in the chat room, if you have any other suggestions about how to get the reviews, for Sarah, can you just write them into the into the chat box? Andrew, if you don't mind, this linking website to Facebook recommendations, if you potentially could share the trick on the Facebook group, that would be lovely. Or perhaps I should have you one day as a guest and we can have a chat about it using video. But let's move on to the final trust element, one that will not surprise you, bear in mind what we've discussed, is the fact that ultimately the content is purely promotional. So all I can have access to is product and services, your track record, your meet the team, and the contact us. But that tells me that you're well practiced. That's it. I don't get the sense that you're well researched and well connected. You are not sharing, you're not recording and sharing your many conversations, your many connections, your many considerations. We are in 2020. More importantly, I'm not seeing and hearing you being helpful to others. And as we know, that builds trust. So there are no industry news, no company updates, no free advice, no free downloads. It's lacking. This is a website that is guilty of under communicating. So thanks, Andrew. We've got the answer. Rocket Spark. I've heard that. Yeah, thanks very much. So think about it. How can we start to introduce that? And I think one of you was asking about the news. We might do that as part of the Q&A. So as you kind of go through this, reflect on what you can do to bring as many of the 6 trust elements as possible. I think if you bring at least 4 out of the 6, I think that would be very, very good. Marita, I wondered how some people seem to have great testimonials, but some of those I've thought sound a bit pedestrian and job reference-like. Yeah. It depends. Sometimes, generally, people don't know what to say. I've been called out. I've had some people say, "Can you write a recommendation on LinkedIn?" I'm like, "Help me. What is the key message? What is the reputation you're trying to build here?" Because I know you foresaw different parts. Is there a particular element of your service you want me to highlight? And that would be good. Bear in mind, by the way, when we think about testimonials, for those of you who are watching this in replay as well as live, if you are dispatching goods or you're sending goods, via courier service or whatever, part of my concern would be essentially the quality of that element of the service beyond ordering things online. So make sure you get some testimonials about how good you are at sending stuff out. Talk about how you go about choosing good packaging, how you use reliable courier service and so on. Talk about how this is a hassle-free returns, or there's always someone that can listen to you if whatever they get back wasn't what they thought about it. This is all the claims and evidence stuff that we want to have beyond just the digital stuff. Okay, what else do I have for you? I've got some examples here. What I meant by the last point about what is essentially being coined the blog, the news, the free advice, the Q&A, the company updates, and so on and so forth. So we're back to breaks and how they've gone about splitting things into all news, but food news, industry news, CSR news, and so on. So thinking about actually series as well, almost like Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, and all the others. I had also this example from a colleague of mine, Claire Jenks, offering tips about creating YouTube thumbnails. Yes, she does this as a chargeable service, but is not afraid to give people some advice to help them out moving forward. I don't know if you guys know Aileen Smith, the health Elrin. She's based near Newcastle. So she actually doubled up on the testimonial. So this is a page about people saying positive things about her. But also, as you'll see in the next page, this is pushing her 3-month fast lane program. As you can see here at the top and the bottom, she kind of almost sandwich the the offer with some testimonials, trying to essentially marry up to my earlier recommendation. Richard Tubb, based in Newcastle, has chosen to go for podcast as a format for essentially making sure that he's not just selling his services to the IT industry, but is seen and heard being helpful as well. And that's going very well for him. So that could be an option for you to consider in the future. And Andy Turner, based in Harrogate, English with an Expert, has gone for the blog series as well, as you can see here, helping overseas as well as UK-based individuals pass the exam to find work in different territories. And it has vocabulary, it has news, it has this company updates called Schools Out and so on and so forth. So we've been looking at ways to kind of marry this up and making sure that, again, we show a more rounded version of ourselves and are not guilty of under-communicating. And back to the Northeast Autism Society, they have used everything from written form to video to podcast and so on. So that's really, really nice work that they've done here. But again, not on their own, using their connections out there. Okay, so we are going to move on and close on the calls to action. Following the calls to action, I will then open up to the Q&A, and I could invite some of you to have a chat with me. But before I do so, any questions or any thoughts about the trust elements and what you've seen? Bear in mind that I would expect them to be obvious to you. Bear in mind how I led you to that section. Any final questions before we move on to calls to action? There we go. Just making sure that sometimes my chat box goes blank, so I'm writing in to activate it. All right, so let's move on then to calls to action. This one is going to be pretty straightforward because I've been looking at this for quite some time now. And it is fair to say that there's been obviously some abuse out there on the internet, websites who have the calls to actions that you've all listed, but they're either not using it. So, I get into a position where sometimes I subscribe to something and I get nothing. I get in touch, I fill the inquiry form to ask for questions to book a meeting and I get no reply. Or I get the opposite, which is that I get absolutely bombarded with emails and that kind of thing. So we need to kind of be aware, have empathy with our visitor who has had a similar bad experience. And we need to find a way for us to say, but we're not like that. So I'm going to use the example here of the contact us page, but the advice I'm going to give you will work for anywhere on the website where someone needs to do something and they could be forgiven to think that maybe it's not worth it or it's risky or they are kind of they're kind of worried. So actually, let me ask you these questions. Do you find that today you're less willing to share your email address when you go on the website to download an ebook or to subscribe to a newsletter or to book a meeting? Do you find that in 2020 you're less willing to part with your email address than maybe 10 years ago when it was fine? So we've got a yes from Andrew, yes from Marita, yes from Helen as well. Thanks very much. I suspect for everybody else in the virtual room, it's kind of that, isn't it? It's kind of because of what's happened, which I've described to you. I'm the same. So it's real. People are going to be less keen to get in touch with you via your website. We're going to do everything we can in first impression trust elements to get it right. But I think there's a final thing, and I want to show you what I think is the contact us page or the calls to action page of the very near future. And I talk about by the end of this year, this would be something that we should adopt, all of us. So I'm going to bring on screen a visual. which is inspired by this statement here, which is essentially the contact us page, whichever, is bland, doesn't really kind of, give me any confidence. I'm not sure what is going to happen. Some of you will have heard me say in events, the contact us page for some website has the appeal of a tax return form. We've had this great welcome on the homepage. We've got this great visit through the promotional social content, and I go on the contact us page, which is just very bland, very functional, and no longer in line and in tune with the personality of the business. So what can we do about it? But I think we need to reclaim the contact us page. We need to kind of break it and build it again. And I was looking for examples. I was looking to even do a diagram, and I got lucky because I found somebody that took the trouble to design it for me. So on screen is what I believe to be the contact us page of the very near future. So what you'll see right at the center here is what's called the hero image, or the video. I think it needs to be a video. And then you have alongside it the form that we've seen before, but you also see below the video, the way it's been laid out, testimonials from customers. And then, of course, below you'll have any form of reassurance around privacy policy, data protection, and so on and so forth. Now, I do believe that if we want to make sure that we vastly increase the conversion rate of our websites, we want to vastly increase the likelihood of someone actually putting products in the shopping basket, part with their credit card details, asking for the free meeting for the tour of the premises and so on, we need to make sure that we do two things. One is we have a video to explain to them how to use the contact us form or whatever it might be, but also to confirm to them what happens once they do so. So right now I'm faced with a page where I need to fill my details to download the ebook, contact the company, buy something, and so on. And I'm remembering everything that's gone wrong in the past. I need you to find a way to tell me that with you is different. Now, if for now we can't have a video which simply spells out and kind of tackles my concerns dead on, what we can have is at least a form of words, maybe an image, which is you at work, or the team at work, and below maybe you write essentially and address my concerns. Bear in mind that what you've written will become the future script for the video that's going to be featured there. But not only are you going to say that when you get in touch, or when I fill the form, you get in touch within 24 hours and it's not salesy and it's a pleasant call and so on and so forth. Not only are you going to claim that, but below, your customers are going to concur with their testimonials. So I can't remember who was asking the question earlier. Sarah was asking about, how Sarah Foster was asking about what is the best way to encourage customers to write a review. And that's, I replied to you, but more importantly, I want you to find a way for you to be praised and thanked about your calls to action. So whether it's joining your social media, whether it's downloaded the ebook, whether it's filling the inquiry form, whether it's putting shopping online, that moment, that critical moment for your business, which is what I asked you to kind of concentrate on, is everything. Therefore, don't fall at the last hurdle. You've done amazingly on first impressions. You've added trust elements galore. It makes complete sense for you to continue with the same warmth, the same passion, the same personality on your contact us. Minimum, there should be a nice picture of you thanking people for the visit and encourage them to act, whatever that page is all about, and telling them exactly what's going to happen when they do, and have others to concur that is exactly what happens. So if it's about the meeting, people are going to say, do you know what? I was a bit nervous to get on that call, but Marita was amazing. I was a bit nervous what Andrew would do. I thought it was going to be a bit pushy, but it wasn't. And you want those people to say that. And they will say to you, or you can write it for them, whatever it might be, but we need those testimonials. If you do those exploratory meetings or free consultancy, like we do in the knowledge industry, and someone say a big thank you on social media for your time, just get that on this page. If you get an email, someone saying, thank you again, Marita, for your time. Thank you, Shona, for helping me out, for looking after us so well, or for answering to the query so quickly. If they email that to you, just say, can I please use that thank you message on my website? Yes, bang, and it goes on that contact us page. The challenge is going to be to get comfortable with creating that video message. Takes time. So if it's not for you just yet, a lovely image, that is, and it's called a hero image. That's the US English there. That is essentially a placeholder for the future video, but there's an image and there's some lovely words underneath to explain what's going to happen if they order the ebook, if they book this, if they ask whatever. But very quickly get people to praise you for the ebook, for the manner in which you reply, for the manner in which you dealt with their inquiry and so on. So there you have it, the contact us page or the calls to action page of the very near future. What do you think? Is that a yes? Is that a maybe? Or is that a no? And then we can have a chat about it. Thank you, Andrew, for the feedback. And Navid as well. Brilliant. Marita. So I've had some customers who've looked into it with trepidations, understandably. So what they've done is, thanks, Carol. But I think it would. I think it would. And for some of us, ultimately, they're going to buy from us or from the team. And why not have the team or the main point of contact to thank them for the visit and tell them what to do. So understandably, for some people, kind of think, I'm not sure I'm ready to talk to camera and do the thank yous and the message and so on. What we could do instead is still have a video, but maybe just have text and some music. So that works. That works for me. There's still a step up from what is currently in place, and then you can replace it with. So maybe that's what the journey is about from us on reflection. As I'm thinking about it, maybe we start with an image, and then some words and some testimonials, and then the image become moving images with text and music. You can use mobile phone apps like Quick and a few others. And then the next step up is for us to kind of say hello and say thank you to our visitors. Something tells me that with the many weeks and months we're going to spend, all of us, using video meetings, video messages, we're going to become super comfortable doing this kind of stuff, and it's not going to be a problem. But there you have it. This is the 10th and final way to improve the experience and conversion rate of the website, which is that famous call to action page. So just to close on that, and then I'll open it to the Q&A, is how to kind of take on board all this wonderful advice. So firstly, huge thank you for those of you who've been here live and watching it on replay. Really appreciate you staying the course, so to speak, on this webinar. It's been lovely to talk to people, albeit virtually, bear in mind current circumstance. But I'm going to close on how to organize maybe the next few days and weeks to take advantage of this learning session. And then I'll stop the recording after saying goodbye and thank you. And then I'll open up to general Q&A. And if you feel up to it, you can jump in with audio and video. So next step, I would suggest, if time allows, hot off this session, maybe spend some time to complete the prep, phase 1. And what I would do is then complete the website experience health check, the 10 kind of statements across that matrix we saw a moment ago for your business, across all 10 things. As a result of which, you're going to come up with suggestions and ideas about changes in addition to your website. If you can, when you make the list of changes and additions, can you group them in order of complexity? So when you have first impressions, trust elements, and calls to action, what are the simple stuff? And can you group them together? What would be maybe medium complexity, high complexity, very difficult? And then almost kind of organize them like this, because you are better off doing very simple things very often first, and then move to the more complex. Sometimes it's human nature to look at more complicated things to do. Once you've done the list, I suppose that would be what I would say to a number of organizations, but can you research and appoint the best person or team to undertake the changes? What do I mean by that is, if you want to undertake change to the copy, but writing is not your thing because you're more of a visual person like me, can you maybe look into your network and ask if someone is a kind of very keen copywriter, and maybe do an exchange of service as to do, well then, would you mind adjusting my copy, and I'll do the video message for you because Pascal is favors video. Or would you mind doing the visuals for me and I do the copy? So we can maybe look at exchange of service as well as purchasing from our local suppliers. And we're very lucky in County Durham, we have tons of suppliers. If this website adjustment and change in addition becomes quite a sizable project, do consider, I just remembered, accessing the funding scheme as part of Digital Drive County Durham. So think about that. Very often it'll be us, the website experience manager, but think about your network and who you know out there that has talent and right now perhaps plenty of time. So once you've done the prep, and ideally as soon as possible from this session, then you want to start to plan ahead. And this is where page 2 of your download is going to be sent to you. And I would like you to kind of make some commitment to your website project as the website experience manager, and kind of say, what can I change over the next 10 days? Right? Essentially, what I mean is 2 working weeks. So next week and the week after, what is sensible to change, and what task do you need to complete to make those changes? That would be for those who are the simpler elements of change. For the kind of medium complexity changes, let's give ourselves a month or 2 even. So what can you do over maybe April, May, maybe a little June that keeps changing, and then what would be changed and completed in 6 months' time, which would be the more complex elements of your website. And the reason why you want to do that is that we can be very, very guilty to want to do too many things too quickly. And sometimes, what you want to do is make the simple changes and see the results for yourselves, get a real boost in kind of confidence in your own abilities as website experience managers, but also for the business to see the results before you tackle the big chunky stuff, but also to give you time to learn to kind of things. So for example, you may want to start a blog for the very first time, and you may be too ambitious to try and do a blog that has industry news, company updates, expert Q&As for downloads in one go. And maybe you want to start with just an expert Q&A because you have connections galore, and you'd be happy to jump on a Zoom call or podcast, and you start with that. Then maybe 2 months later, you're going to start with industry news. And then 2 months later, you're going to bring your company updates because you have more to say. And then finally, you may introduce free downloads at the end of the year. It's really for you to be quite self-aware of your kind of energy levels, your time budget, as I call it, and make it work for you. Your business is going to be trading for quite some time. I suspect there's no rush, so long as you do the simpler stuff first, then the medium-sized complexity, then complexity. So I hope that's kind of helpful reflection. So next phase then is to set everything up for implementation. So I would then compile your weekly schedule. You've organized your thinking, you've used a table that we saw a moment ago, and therefore what you're going to do next week, the week after, and so on and so forth, across first impressions, trust elements, and calls to action. And don't give yourself too much to do every week, sincerely. You might learn actually that way. I'm still guilty to this day. I put together a weekly planner, and it was just too much. So I need to pace myself more, but still things are happening. If needs be, you need to brief whoever's helping you out, informally or formally. And if needs be, you may train the individuals. So people need to be trained maybe to use your CMS, or you need training yourself. So you discover that you want to make some changes to the website, but that's a facet of your website that you don't know. Then you need to learn that. There's 2 ways. You can contact obviously your designer, contact the platform. So if you've gone for a template-driven platform like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress, their helpline and kind of guides are amazing. or quite simply ask somebody on the Facebook group that we have, a DigiDrive, go on YouTube, find a way to obviously learn the skill and then get on with the implementation. My view would be follow the weekly schedule best you can. If you've gone a bit too much, then adapt, pace yourself. Don't give yourself a hard time. You just start, you misread the situation, and then adjust the forthcoming weeks. And then it's about a little at a time, very simple things done very often. When we talk about obviously your online reputation, the blog, I would say minimum fortnightly updates. It may be that because of current circumstance, we can do a bit more now and whatnot. Let's bank the content if it was, but I would say minimum you should be able to drive interest to your website, to your blog, social content on a fortnightly basis. That's kind of the recommendation. And then what I would do is get on with the work to the best of your abilities and your time budget. At the end of the month, have a review, celebrate because you'll have made progress anyway. Let people know around the community that we have in the Facebook group. Check at the end of the month and then plan the following month with the lessons that you've learned. And ideally, as the website experience manager, with the scrapbooking, with the reflecting on your conversations, your connections, and so on, you might find that the running of the website is something that becomes perhaps a lot more enjoyable than when it began maybe a few weeks, a few months, a few years ago, because we're moving away from a technical endeavor to a customer service endeavor, which I hope has been something that you find very helpful. So the role and the ambition of this session, like many others before, has been to make you think differently so you can take different action. Remember, the tools you've been given, very much like this artist you can see on the photo here, are all the same. We all have the same tools, but the gift of the internet is for you to find your true voice and express yourself so that, who knows what you can end up creating using the same brushes, the same colors as everybody else. Look at that. I didn't do that, by the way. It's just the photography that I was able to get for this presentation. So very, very quickly, I want to thank my colleagues at Business Durham, Digital Drive, and We Are UMI behind the scenes and screens for organizing this session so that we can spend some time together. I thank them as well for allowing me to talk about what is probably one of my favorite subjects, running successful websites and taking pleasure in really showcasing who we are as people and our qualities. I hope that it has been helpful. Feel free to keep asking questions on the Facebook group and of course directly with us, particularly via our digital advisors and Stephen. Until next time, can I just wish you all the very, very best and go out there creating amazing content. Bye-bye for now.